Hey, everybody, welcome back to the GC podcast. I'm Liz Elam, and today we're talking about what it really takes to create spaces that feel elevated, welcoming, and genuinely human. Our guest, Amanda Neanor, is the founder of Neanor Projects, and she has quite an extensive background that makes a ton of sense for this. She has been in the private club and workspace experience, and she has worked alongside brands like Soho House, Nowie House, Platinum Clubs of the world. Her work sits at the intersection of hospitality, membership growth, operations, and cultural programming, which is so perfect for the future. Amanda will also be with us at Juicy in New York City. And so if you're coming, you'll get to meet her in person. Amanda, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing great. Like you said, it's the end of the year. I feel like things are starting to wrap up. And I'm just looking forward to 2026. I think big things are on the horizon.
Definitely they are. And we're actually publishing this in 2026, so we'll already be in it.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I'm excited to be here then in 2026.
Okay, so one of the things I have figured out is that morning routine matters. So I would love to hear what your morning routine looks like.
So I'm actually a night owl. So mornings aren't my thing. I'm most
Mm.
locked in from like 6:30 to 3 a.m. when no one can get a hold of me. Most creative. But because of that, and my husband is aware of that, we've done this ritual, which has been really nice and grounding. It's a very slow morning. So I
Sure.
usually wake up. He brings me coffee around like 8:30. We go for a walk with the dog. We watch the morning news for 30 minutes. And then usually, because I'm not creative in the mornings, that's when I bang out all of my emails, kind of do
Nice.
life admin, uh,
Hmm.
save the creative stuff for the evening. So yeah,
Oh,
calm
I love that.
vibes. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's important to know like when you're on. Like I am a morning person, so like I stack all my work in the morning and then the afternoon is when I do kind of like the mindless things to me, right? That's when I
Yeah.
might get to email. I might not. We'll see. It just kind of depends. Okay, so for our listeners that are meeting you for the first time, what is a short version of your story and what kind of work do you focus on today?
So today I advise hospitality groups that are looking to bring membership clubs online or reposition existing clubs. Not just hospitality groups, also owners, operators, entrepreneurs who are looking to bring on membership concepts. And that's because of my background in private membership clubs. So, as you mentioned, I previously worked as general manager for Soho House, Noia House, Platinum Clubs of the World. I was global director there. But most people come into the club industry through restaurants or hotels, kind of more traditional hospitality offerings. For me, I came in through coworking. So before that, I think I really cut my teeth in London, is where my career started. I started off as a community associate at Spaces. It was the first Spaces by Regis location. So I worked
Mm.
really closely with the founding team. They would send over from the Netherlands, they were the coolest.
Mhm.
And that was when it was like a very sexy boutique startup. And so
Mhm.
they would come over, and then they would also send Regis teams that were looking to open up in Paris or Germany over to our London location in Oxford Circus to understand how we ran it. And then they took a really hyper local approach to scaling it globally, which was cool. So they would say, okay, these mugs won't work in Paris, for example, or like in Paris, people value privacy. So we need to have screens in all the conference rooms. So looking at how
Mhm.
all of those little details were kind of being weighed to support a similar community, but in a different culture and context. And then I worked for TechSpace, and you had their CEO on recently, not that long.
Mhm. Yep.
He joined after my time. I was there with the founding team. And so when I was with them, we were very much a startup supporting startups and then a scale up supporting scale ups. Um, and we were really generous in the way that we customized our offering for members. So we would build fully customizable workspaces for these scaling tech businesses. So if you were a founder and you wanted your own private office or your 2 phone booths and a breakout area over here, we would actually build that out for each team. Um,
Mhm.
and then we also started doing like the programming and events at that time. And so we were being very creative and what we could do for our members to bring them together.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that you came out of co-working and now you're in the club space. Because in my mega trends this year, I talk a lot about the rise of clubs, and we're definitely going to be talking about it in New York. So you've worked across sales, marketing, member experience, operations, programming. In your mind, what's really the glue that all holds it all together in a great space?
Well, I think you've talked about this before. So there's functional office spaces where people can just kind
Mm-hmm.
of go in and have a desk that they can work at. Or you can be very, very intentional about how you're bringing people together in that space. And so I think having teams that are skilled at doing that and making an environment that's very relationship driven is really like the most valuable thing. That's where the magic is. And I think it's hard to underrate that. So a lot of people, um, who are in the real estate industry are really trying to learn that skill. I think it's the same way that
Mm-hmm.
boutique hotels have kinda changed the hotel industry. Now all of these large, huge hotel corporations are now trying to create their own boutique hotel brands. Um,
Right.
I think people really want a space, yeah, both where there's a great sense of community, and I also think that there needs to be a story. Like, the space needs to have its own identity and a narrative that
Yep.
people wanna tether their own identities to. Um, and so having a really strong understanding of what your brand is. And at my side of the industry, I feel like brand is kind of like a dirty word because it feels like something that you're just using to sell a space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we try to stay away from the word brand, but it is the word. It is the word for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's knowing who you are and having a stance about something. Like
Yeah,
space for the sake of space is just space, and that's not interesting, and that's usually not going to do well.
yeah,
But if you have a reason and a story and something that people can believe in and hold on to, that's to me that's a huge part of the glue. The other glue is community, right? It is the one thing that you can't buy that you've gotta build, right? You can't just go get yourself some community. You've gotta invest in it, you've gotta nurture it, you've gotta do a bunch of things to make that magic happen. And that's the reason that, like, real estate's never gonna really figure out
yeah,
co-working, and the reason why hotels are crawling over boutique hotels being like, "What are you doing? Like,
yeah,
how does that work?"
totally.
So, I in violent agreement is the net of that. Okay, so this is a fun one. When you walk into a space for the first time, what are the first three things that you would notice that could tell you whether your experience is going to be special or not?
Oof. Because I'm a generalist, right? I've been a GM for a lot of spots.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, the first thing that I'm programmed to do is and I don't know if you're like this or if you've worked in ops, but my eyes just go to, like, which light bulb is out and where are the scuff
Mm-hmm.
marks and are the corners cleaned, are the lights dusted?
Yep.
So, like, an attention to detail, I think, is really important. And all of the examples I'm gonna give, I think, are very simple,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's the things that matter. So it's that attention to detail in the space, how the space is set up, number 1. Number 2 would be the warmth of the team that is greeting you. So are
Mm-hmm.
they making eye contact? Are they smiling? Are they greeting you in an anticipatory way? So many times
Mm-hmm.
you'll go up to a desk and somebody has their head down and they're working on their
Yep.
laptop because we're all running lean, right? So we're working on multiple things. But I actually did a program for Fidelity where I taught how to unlock a great service culture, a hospitality driven
Mm.
culture at Fidelity Investments. And we talk about the primacy and recency effect. And
Mm.
basically, it's your first impressions are the ones that stick with you the most, and the last thing that you experience is also something that's very easy to recall. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's that first hello, and then the goodbye has to be equally as strong.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that, and we're really kind of working on that at Juicy as well. Like, I feel like we get the beginning good, but we don't get the end very
Mm.
good, and so that's something I'm always kind of tweaking and working on. Um, yeah, so for me, when I go into a space, it's 100% how am I greeted? right? Am I greeted? I'm amazed how many spaces I walk into and there's like no greeting. Or like you said, I can't stand when I go up to a desk and I'm just looking at the top of somebody's head
Mhm.
or they're on the phone ignoring me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm right here. You have a human in front of you. What are you doing? I think the smell really matters.
Oh, totally, yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it. It's all the sensory things, right? It's like what
Mhm.
is the lighting? Like the other day, I was in a Nordstrom's dressing room, and I was like, "How does Nordstrom get the lighting so bad in the dressing room?
Yeah.
Like, how does this brand not know that I look like trash in this lighting?"
Right.
And so, like it's just it's so many different things. But to me, it's just that the sensory of it all and the humanness of it all,
Yeah.
right? And I can generally tell you within, 10 seconds if I'm gonna have a good experience or a bad experience.
Totally, totally. And I think it's funny that you bring up Nordstrom. I use this as an example a lot when I'm talking to clients, but, where the lighting is wrong, but the
Mhm.
cohesiveness of the space. So a lot of times people will have CapEx projects and they'll invest in a certain section of a space, but the energy and the feel of that space is so different from other parts. So
Mhm.
this isn't really part of the first impression, but as you're going through this space, making sure that it's cohesive across every single touch point, I think is so important. And Nordstrom, I always try to say, you don't want your space to feel like a strip mall where there's these different
Mhm.
spaces with different brands. You want it to feel like a Nordstrom where there might be different functionalities of the spaces, but it should feel cohesive, like one brand.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. And it's funny too, because that's like really what my next question was. You have already answered, which is how do you align brand and aesthetics with commercial objectives? Like
Mm,
in a way that keeps a space beautiful, intentional, but still make the math work, right? Because that's
yeah,
the thing. Like, I feel like, especially right now, a huge part of the trend is these very luxe, beautiful spaces with rich fabrics. It's like, well, that's great for the first 2 months, and then
mm,
everything's stained and
yeah.
and the velvet's crushed. Like, how do you align all of that?
Yeah, it's crazy to me the number of providers where I worked with and they don't have like a planned preventative maintenance schedule for those the
Mm-hmm.
tiny details and they let that kind of
Yep.
build up. I think so being proactive about maintaining the space usually helps you from further on down the line having to deal with kind of bigger issues. I think also a good example of aligning the the commercial element and the aesthetic element. We when I was with Soho House, Soho Works 9000 Sunset, we had these beautiful spaces, and it was shaped like a horseshoe on these two sides of the
Mm-hmm.
floor. And in co-working, you have a lot of levers that you can pull to both make money and also to satisfy members and to improve member sentiment. And one of the things that we noticed was that there were these fixed desks that people could book at. I know the language changes depending. Like in Neue House, it was our atelier desks, but
Yeah.
the desk that somebody can rent out, and that is their fixed desk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what we realized was that there were all of these amazing, talented companies that were coming into the space, and they loved the space. They loved the community that we built, the energy, all of the amenities we had. But we didn't have enough private offices for them. And so we worked out if we could just put up 4 walls, we could
Mm-hmm.
significantly increase our revenue, bring in these, what I would call like anchor tenants. So member
Mm-hmm.
companies that people want to say, oh, I work in the same office building as them. And then there were breakout spaces that were underutilized. And so we could
Mm-hmm.
create new fixed desks where we could move the people who had their fixed desks over there. And then the way that we put up the walls were really beautiful. So they almost look like bookshelves.
Mm.
And I think that that was a way to get around some of our permitting things. It worked out. It looked really stunning. And I actually went back to Soho Works in April, I want to say, and all of the offices were fully occupied. And really cool, awesome brands were based in space.
Hey guys, just breaking in to let you know that we have an amazing event coming up this spring. It's Juicy's 50th in New York City. You need to be in the room, and how you do that is you join us by buying a ticket. You can get your ticket at na.juicy.co, which stands for North America, by the way. And then, if you would like to join us in the UK, we've got an event coming up in Manchester and one in London. You can get more details on that at uk.juicy.co. And last but not least, africa.juicy.co. We've got an event coming up in September in Cape Town that we're super excited about. We want to learn what's going on in Africa, and we want to pour everything we can into that continent. If you'd like to have a juicy ad or be a podcast guest or talk to us about sponsorship or anything else, just hit us up at info@gcuc.co. Talk to you soon. You know, it's interesting. That has really been a theme we've been seeing, which you've touched on a couple of times. In coworking Europe, there was a panel on fractional offices, and that was like a really big thing. And the year before, there was also a lot of discussion around this. And I think what fractional offices means to most people is, corporations are coming in and they're saying, I want a space, it's my space, but I'm not going to use it all the time. So, how do you make that work, right?
Right.
How do you figure out the numbers on that? And how do you constantly be moving walls, right? Because demountable walls are really expensive and don't really work.
Mhm.
These companies are willing to pay a lot of money. So, do you just put up walls for them? Did those walls go all the way up, or were they?
Yeah, and they just had glass in them, and so
Mm,
it didn't look fully closed off, but it gave them the
yeah.
privacy they needed. So yeah, I think it worked out well,
Yeah.
and I think after a while, after you start looking at your pipeline, you can tell roughly the size of a space that most
Mhm.
people are looking for. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think it's just being creative about the space that you have. I think it's also a skill that I learned from working at TechSpace because we rarely said no.
Right.
And so you learn to get creative with the space that you have. It's like playing Tetris a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking with Kane, who does IQ offices in Canada, and he had a client come in and want like the space laid out in a very specific way, but for the money they were willing to pay, he was like, done. And I was like, have you gone and gotten just an empty building so you can be at the ready for when more of these come along? And he's like, yeah, sure have. And so the demand is shifting and changing and evolving. So I think it's really interesting how flexible people are going to actually can be
Yeah.
with their space.
And yeah, and I've seen it both ways where I've seen companies that have a traditional office space that they've taken on with a long-term lease, and then they've
Mhm.
wanted to convert portions of that space into collaborative workspace. And so I think that it's
Mhm.
a really unique concept as well. It's a great way to also build a funnel for your own company depending on how you curate that community, which is a cool concept.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I like to point out for people, they're like worried that like if a corporation comes in, it's going to ruin their community. And it's like,
Mm.
well, okay, Google's not coming in. Ted, Sally, Rick, and Biff are coming in. So like they're humans. They're
Yeah.
not a company. They're just adding people, not companies.
Yeah.
And so just treat them like humans.
Yeah, and I think it kinda goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about it's very much like gardening, right? So you start to develop your community over time and what your culture is, and a part of that has to come from the actual members themselves.
Mhm.
And then when you're bringing new people in, making sure that they understand that they're an ambassador of that community and it's their responsible to continue whatever the
Yeah.
type of culture, is that you're creating. And that was one of the things that I found really fascinating when I was with Soho House. We did, a focus group across all the Soho Works across North America. And some of the feedback that we got was that the LA site that I was running was their favorite, and it was because we enforced the rules the most.
Mm.
And so I think that as much as we like to say, people like to be cool and like, oh, we don't like rules. But I think that when you enforce those rules, you're helping enforce the community that people have paid to be a part of. And people
Right.
think that they want all of the flexibility and freedom in the world, but actually you don't wanna hear that person on the phone talking really loudly on their conference call in a space that is supposed to be social
Right.
or quiet or, um, and so, yeah, I think that that's a big part of it too, is that coaching and training, which is also a huge part of the onboarding experience, which I think is something that a lot of providers sleep on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So you recently were in New York, and I remember
Oh, yeah.
seeing this social post before I even knew you. And you talked about you went into a bunch of different social clubs, and there was one in particular that stood out. Can you tell us what stood about this one particular brand?
Yeah, and I think this is huge, and it's all over my LinkedIn, and people are kinda talking about, how on the private membership club side.
Yep.
Right now, there's this big boom in New York of private membership clubs,
Hmm.
and there's people are sharing different opinions about it, but social clubs like this have existed in London for years, and there's a
Forever.
ton, and they're still popping up, and they're thriving. Um, but I saw a post by there's a guy named Chris Black who I follow who is like a great tastemaker and whatever, but he writes for GQ. And this article for GQ, he said that these clubs popping up in New York are a disease. And I
Mm,
think what he meant is a little bit based off of the inconsistent hospitality across those clubs. So what you'll
mm,
find is sometimes when you enter a club space, there's this sense of a little bit elite, like a little bit
hmm.
pretentious, right? The members can be that, but your staff should never be that. Your staff are not the members. Your staff are there to provide a service. And so sometimes
Yeah.
you'll find staff that tether their identities to the club more than to what they're supposed to be doing, which is providing a service to the members or the guests of the members. And so yeah, I went to Chez Margot, the 22, Ned, and then Bathhouse, which I wouldn't put in the same class as those. It's a different type of offering. But across all of them, the 22, just like every single person that I spoke to in that space made me feel important, whether it was the
Mm,
doorman, the reception team, the people providing turn down service. Everybody was really kind, really warm. It was that what we were talking about earlier about the eye contact, the smile, the
yeah.
introductory service, and being proactive in how they like addressed my problems. Like I was running to a conference. I was like, I'm checking out, but I need you to hold my bag. And somebody came up to me like, "Are you going to the airport? We can organize a car for you." Like they were asking me,
Anticipating.
yeah. And they're like, "If you're not going that far, we can also coordinate the car to go there." Where I didn't have the same level of service in all the other places that I went. And I
Mm,
think that that's huge. And I think that the culture that you create with your staff also bleeds into the experience that the members create within their own communities. And
mhm,
so you're kind of setting the tone.
mhm.
And I think the 22 just have done a really brilliant job of creating a space that is, I mean, I told you when I walk into a space, the first thing I do is start looking for the holes in the
Yeah.
wall. Uh, it was flawless. It was a stunning space. They're clearly paying attention to all of the details, and that's both from the physical space to the service
Mhm.
that they created.
Amanda, you and I should start a secret shopping service
Oh,
for the
yes.
industry. I think we could kill it. Between the 2 of us, we would just scare the crap out of everybody. It'd be
Right.
amazing. You said something that I really wanted to touch back on because I think it's really important, and that is I think the difference between a hospitable space and service
Mm,
space to me is anticipating needs,
yeah.
which is what they were doing, and then the other thing is trying to surprise and delight.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to me, those are the things that next level you into hospitality. It's
Yeah.
anticipation and surprise and delight.
And they did the turn down service, they provided little cookies that I wasn't expecting.
Mhm,
But yeah, I agree. I think the surprise and delight is fun. Different providers are trying to think of different at Soho House, they called it acts of generosity. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, every provider that I've worked with has had a different name for it, but I agree. I think those moments that I think there's a book called The Power of Moments.
mhm.
I don't know if you've read it by Chip and Dan
I
Heath.
haven't.
It's this I have it right here, but,
Okay, I love it.
they talk about how the Magic Castle in LA was ranked one of the top hotels in LA for a while, and it's not a great hotel, like, it's not the nicest
Mhm,
hotel, but they said that they really doubled down on the surprise and delight, so they have, a popsicle hotline by their pool, so a kid or an
mm.
adult can pick up this phone, call in and say, "Oh, hi, I would like a popsicle," and then, um waiters would come out with white gloves and on a silver tray bring a popsicle to you poolside. And so I think those types of things that are really memorable and stick in people's head, yeah, so valuable.
so funny. I have a popsicle moment.
Ah,
I was a long time ago, I was at the Six Senses in Thailand, just sitting at the pool, absolutely melting. And they came around, and I think it was in like a galvanized steel little bucket, and they had made fresh popsicles, and they were just going around the pool handing out popsicles. And I was like, brilliant.
yeah.
So brilliant.
And when did you go? When was that in Thailand?
Oh, this was like probably 2009.
And you still remember it to this day. And I think that's
Yeah,
the most powerful thing. Those things stick with you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was Six Senses, and I'm going to one in January, like, because I know the level of service I can anticipate
Yeah. Yeah.
and love it. Okay, so here's one I've been dying to ask you. What is a lesson that co-working operators should borrow immediately from luxury hospitality and or private membership
Mm,
that you don't see them doing?
yeah. I think so this is hard for me to answer because I kind of feel like there's like 3 camps in my mind. There's
Okay.
co-working that I think of as like our spaces, industrious,
Mhm.
larger providers that I think have, WeWork, who have done a great job of, like, creating a more, serviced office space and not just a
Mhm.
functional space. Then I feel like Noya House, Soho Works, there's a provider now called Lighthouse where
Mhm.
they're blurring the lines between, like, a restaurant, private membership club, and co-working space.
Mhm.
And then there's, private membership clubs, hotels, restaurants. And so I've worked for a lot who fall into that middle space, and so it's hard for me to say that providers aren't doing it, but I think that what I would love to see it kinda continue to blade across all spaces. I would love for it to become just a more, like, widely, adopted practice. Um
Mhm.
I think it would be the onboarding process. So, whatever the culture it is that you're trying to create, making sure that you're very clear on that from day one.
Yeah.
So, it's not just like, oh, here are the restrooms, here's how you print, and here's how you, I don't know, order lunch to your office. Like, it should be really about your ethos and like what you stand for as a company, um, and how you want people to navigate that space, and then make them feel a responsibility to that space, like they're ambassadors of that space.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And I think where a lot of people miss the boat is on the tour, because the tour is kind of where that starts, right? And it's how did you set up the tour? How did you, because it's very rare that you buy into it without the tour.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to your point about surprise and delight, I think a sense of ceremony too when somebody has been brought into a
Mhm.
space. So we
Love
talked
it.
about the importance of first impressions. So when people are signing on, making sure that they know that it's something special. Like we're really excited for
Right.
them to be a part of it. We want them to be there. And then I think also just a general sense of hospitality, like you are providing a service. I know there's different cultures in different spaces, so some are a little bit more casual than others. Um, but I think making sure that you remember that at the end of the day, and I think you talk about this a lot as well, that you say that co-working isn't like real estate; it's hospitality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
It's
I think
about what real estate is a very important piece of it. If you get it wrong, you're likely to fail.
yeah,
Sorry, you are. But what we do day in and day out is operate space for humans, and
mhm,
that is hospitality.
yeah,
Period. And if your business is around providing space for the sake of space and you identify as real estate, that's fine. That's who you are.
mhm,
Embrace it. Love it. Like IWG is still listed as real estate on LinkedIn because that's what they believe. That's
yep,
fine. Most of the brands that I want to go to, like the Mullen, the Commons, Hub Australia, Uncommon, they all identify as hospitality.
mhm,
It's like go to where it fits for you, and that's
totally.
totally fine.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if this answers your question, but what I would love to see more of is the creativity in the space. So I
Mm,
think, one of the things Neue House is closed, but, one of the things that I think they've done better than any other provider when they were around is the
mm,
programming and events, and I think they were so
yes.
dialed in on who they were building for, and then creating
Mhm.
events and programming for that community,
Right.
and then also being very intentional about how they facilitate connection. And I don't know if
Mm,
all co-working providers are baking that into how they run their spaces. Um,
mhm.
but I think that's huge. Understanding people's preferences and what they're into
I
and
agree. I
connecting.
agree. Yeah, yeah, and, like, I was talking to an operator the other day, and I was telling them something I thought the space needed, and I was like, "But don't take my word for it, survey your members." Like,
Mhm.
there's not enough of, like, they'll tell you what they want, just ask them,
Yeah.
And so it's, like, really staying in touch with your community and delivering what they want and need, and then the other thing I wanted to point out, because I just think it's important, is you talked about, the process of onboarding and all that because the most important customer is one you've already got.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, hold on to that. Don't go looking for somebody new until you've got existing guys all happy so they're not leaving.
Yeah.
That makes your life so much easier. If you've got retention, I think towards so I had a co-working space in Austin. I grew it to 3 locations before I sold it. Towards the end, I did a survey, and the average amount of time somebody stayed at Link Co-working was 5.8 years.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that goes to the facilitation of connections. There was a study done on retention just in a normal workspace.
Mhm.
But when people have a best friend at work, they're more likely to stay in that
Yeah,
office if you
100%.
can create that best friend for them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy. I love that so much. And you guys, this is why I had to do the podcast with Amanda because I met her like literally 2 weeks ago and I
Mhm.
was like, "We have to do this" because we were supposed to talk for 30 minutes and then we ended up talking for 15 minutes because we're like, "Yeah, and
Totally.
and." So now you see why Amanda's going to be in my life. Okay, so I only have one more question for you because bizarrely our 30 minutes are gone already.
Mhm.
But this one's fun. This one's a zinger, and I'm going to lay it on you. What is the one question I should have asked you, but I didn't? And then you get to answer it, of course.
Oof. Um, just off the top of my head, everyone loves, like, a little bit of celebrity gossip, and having worked at
Oh, yeah,
Soho
let's
House,
go.
I'm surprised you didn't ask about that. I have so many stories of, like, because people always wanna know who's the nice celebrity when you meet them, who's not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say one of the nicest celebrities that I've ever met was Randy Jackson at Neue House. Um, I was with our F&B director, and we were trying to pick out glassware for our new site that we were opening in downtown
Mm-hmm.
LA, and Randy actually came over and, helped weigh in, like, helped us pick out the
Oh,
glassware,
so
and,
cute.
every time I would see him in the hallways, he would sing I think it's a band called Chicago, they have a song called Amanda, and he would sing it to
Mm-hmm.
me, which was so sweet. Um, but yeah, that's all I got.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, it's funny. Cliff Ho from the comments also interacted with a lot of celebrities. He was basically like a VJ kind of person back in Australia. And he's like, Miley Cyrus, lovely. Absolutely lovely. Like, I love hearing that.
It's hard for me to get starstruck now after being in that environment, but Miley
Mm-hmm.
is one person where,
Mm,
I was having dinner with a friend once, and she was behind us, and she walked across the restaurant, and everyone's heads just turned to her because she's
mm-hmm.
so magnetic, and just the way that she
Yeah.
carried herself, it was like she didn't even mind that I mean, she's been a child star, she's used to it, but I was
Mm-hmm.
actually starstruck. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I absolutely love how you think about human centered environments, a balanced experience, operations, membership, community, growth, hospitality. And it's just, I think it's just absolute destiny that we got to meet.
Totally. Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for having me on your podcast, and, I'm excited to see you in New York. It's gonna come by
Yes, it's going to
faster.
be very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. All right, everybody, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and follow for more and subscribe wherever you listen. And we'd love it if you could leave a quick review. It helps more people find the podcast and share the episode with a operator or community builder who cares about creating spaces where people want to feel belonging. And you can come see us in person in New York. You can grab your tickets at na.juicy.co. We would love to see you there. And you can connect with Amanda on LinkedIn. She's in the show notes. And we'll also link to the book she mentioned because I want to read it. And I'm just going to put it out there. I have got to get back to reading. So I'm going to read a book a month in
Ooh.
2026. And I'm going to start with that book because that sounds really interesting. So thanks for listening, y'all. And we'll see you next in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. All right. Thanks, y'all. Bye.